the software development. Software development, as we will come and see in a case study, is only software development per se. It doesn't extend itself to the IT-enabled services. And in the Income Tax Act, when you look at software development, it automatically gets extended to IT-enabled services. Those which were eligible for Section 10A and 10B exemption as such. Not so in as far as ECB is concerned. On the other hand, rupee masala bond, any corporate or any body as well as even REITs and InvITs can issue it. So it is clearly your scope of coverage as far as an eligible borrower is concerned is much wider as far as a masala bond is concerned. Again, in terms of all-in cost ceilings, there are certain conditions, as we saw, 300 basis points above LIBOR or 500 basis points above LIBOR. Here it says it just should be commensurate with prevailing market conditions and comparable to the cost concerned. So a lot more flexibility which has been allowed. Amounts vary. Here you can borrow more amounts at one shot, and that is why I think companies like HDFC and others have chosen to go by the masala bond route as such. Even on end use, a little more liberty as far as end use restrictions are concerned. So with that, what happens is that the masala bond therefore has really captured the flavor of the season. Now, looking at the ECB policy, let's do a quick revision. As I said, it is very important for you to go back conceptually for some things in mind. One, you must be an eligible borrower. Eligible borrower is very clearly defined. That's why we saw that in bonds, eligible borrower is no longer required. That's why again it's a popular form of an issuance. There must be an eligible lender. Only eligible lenders are allowed to go, as I explained to you time and again, not because I hate Donald Trump, but Donald Trump, or like a lot of us hate Donald Trump, let me put it in that way. And therefore, but he cannot borrow, or he cannot lend to anybody. So you cannot be, any eligible lender cannot lend to a borrower. It has to be those prescribed people only. Then you have an all-in cost ceiling. You cannot pay more than an all-in cost ceiling. There has to be a tenor or a period based on which you have to have a minimum average maturity period of 3 years or 5 years. Only after which you can borrow amounts up to a stipulated amount, 50 million, 200 million, as we saw. So that also need to be kept in mind. And finally, the prescribed end uses as such. Prescribed end uses for 3-year, 5-year period in foreign currency, a little tighter when it comes to rupee funds in foreign currency, rupee funds under the 3 or 5 year window, much more liberal, and there is a negative list. Other than that, you can borrow anything else. So that is the overall scheme of the ECB that you really need to understand quite thoroughly. Now let's look at, having looked at this, let's look at some case studies. Now if you see, everywhere there is something what is called as referred to as the average maturity period. But I don't know, I actually met up with a general manager of Reserve Bank of India day before yesterday, and she was asking suggestions on how to improve, regulations in relation to FDI as well as ECBs. And I told her that, ma'am, why don't you first of all make this a little more easier. You have books by dummies, right, for various subjects. ECB for dummies, it should be also something, there should be a lot of FAQs so that this becomes very simple for any borrower to really understand. Now you look at the first premise that an average maturity period, you look at circulars now, you won't get any guidance on what an average maturity period is. Is it simple average? Is it something like a weighted average? Can I make one installment payment after the 3-year period? Is that good enough? What is average maturity period? No guidance given anywhere, either in the regulations, either in the notification. The only place where average maturity period was ever defined in terms of an illustration is in this RBI circular dated 2012, where in an example they have shown you how a US million to dollar amount which was borrowed over a particular period of time has been repaid, and how does one go about calculating the average maturity period of it. And if you look at the example of the illustration, it is clearly a case of a weighted average maturity that the Reserve Bank looks at. So when they talk of a minimum average maturity period, they look at the amount, they look at the period in number of days, and they have a formula divided by 360 in order to come at the average maturity of the ECB as such. So in substance, while no guidance is given, this is the only circular where guidance was given way back in 2012, and it talks of a weighted average maturity, and that is the important point to be kept in mind while looking at MAM, which is described in all the tracks, track 1, track 2 and track 3. Then you also have very often this practical case which comes up. Let's take a case of a subsidiary of a foreign company. A foreign company has set up a subsidiary. Subsidiary wants to go and borrow from the Indian banker. The Indian banker obviously will give him loans at a pretty high rate of interest compared to what he is used to